Middleton Elite followers. I'm Debbie LaRiviere, and I've got our amazing coach, Lisa Quin, with us today, talking to us about building a next level business. Interestingly, I coached Lisa for a number of years, and she has become so extraordinary that now she's one of our coaches. And she's really focused on that client that is looking to take their business to the next level in multiple different facets. So Lisa, I'm going to turn it over to you to share with us what you're talking about today and walk us through your information.
Great. Well, thank you. And thank you for this opportunity. It's always good to visit with you, Miss Debbie. Well, as you mentioned, many of our clients, that's what they're coming to us for, right? They're looking for guidance as to how to take their business to that next level. And that can mean different things to different people, right? Sometimes it's production based. I want to do XYZ, period. That's my next level. Sometimes it's I want to either build or refine my team so that it's just producing on all cylinders, right? And then sometimes it's an exit strategy, right? I don't want to be doing this when I'm 94 years old. It's hard to manage a cane on a lockbox. So, and everything in between that. So, I think one of the things that Middleton Elite does really, really well, I know it was one of the things that attracted me to coaching when you and I first met. I don't even know how many years ago it was the fact that Middleton looks at the whole person and truly coaches the whole person. And I think you coined the phrase, we do that through the lens of the 4 Ps, right? We look at production, we look at projects, we look at people, and of course, we're always going to look at profitability and the person as a whole. And I found that to be unique. I've coached with a lot of different companies, and I've never known a company that really approached it that way, which is why I stuck with coaching so long and was really, really privileged and continue to be coached, but really privileged to be able to work with you guys in that capacity.
Great. Well, Lisa, what I'd love for you to dive in to today is looking at some of these different ways that people are considering themselves next level, or what it is that they're looking at for next level. And I know you brought some various points for business versus job and what that could look like. So I'd love for you to just dive in, and then I'll interject as we keep going.
Okay. Well, so I think one of the things, some of the things that we look at when we are in that exploratory call with potential clients, as well as in the launch meeting, right? We kind of look for a plan that they've had in their business. Do they have anything in place that's had historical data, action plans, targets with identifiable metrics, right? And some people do to some extent. Many people don't, right? We're so busy in our business, it just, we don't look at the big picture. So we look for gaps in that, as well as talk about what their goals are. And then from that, we're able to put those things into place. And really what it comes down to when we're talking to a client is identifying and helping them identify. Have they been building a business, or are they working at a job? It's 2 different things, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, as you think about it, a business is an entity. An entity is something that you can walk away from, right? And it'll keep running. So how do we get there? It is really the question. And a lot of those things is what we dig into. Some of the key elements of a business is, of course, leverage, right? That's the people, right? The financials. Are we making a profit? That's, at the end of the day, it's not what you do in GCI, it's what you're putting in your bank, right? And then, of course, there's the business plan and the metrics that allow ourselves to get there, okay? A lot of agents, and I'm one of them. I mean, we are so busy in the business, it's like we're using the force to guide us. And when the market is hot, that hides a lot of sins, and we can actually get away with that, and it looks good and it still feels good, but we're not really putting the foundational pieces in place to keep it moving, right? And then, of course, there's an exit strategy. There's one that will allow you to walk away from that to some degree, depending on where your goals are, and have it keep moving.
Yeah. And I think too, with that exit strategy, like you said, Lisa, we run into people that, or clients that an exit strategy is selling fewer homes, but never want to leave the business of selling, right? And then we also have the client that says, I just want to work in one specific part of the business.
Right.
We have the client that wants to transition completely out of the business and consider this a passive income revenue stream. And so what does that look like? Is it creating a partnership, creating an adoption type of situation? Is it building a team that's self-run, self-managed through hiring, leverage, and leadership? And so, I think at any case, it's really diving into what that person's definition of success and future exit strategy is that allows us within that customized coaching plan to create a win for the clients. So tell us a little bit about how some of these look different.
So from an exit strategy standpoint, so one model that you talked about was the CEO model, right? You have built your business and your production to the point that you are at a point where you can hire somebody that will be you for all practical purposes in managing that team. So that's a CEO, that's a sales team, and that's admin support. Now, a critical element to that is, what is the production that we have in place? What is that bottom line that is going to end up driving the profitability to give you the income that you need for that to make sense? So there's some metrics that go along with that. And then there's some foundational pieces to work toward if that's what your goal is. The other one is the sale of the business, right? We have some agents that have built a business to a structure that it is marketable to sell to another agent that's wanting to build something. But there's identifiable metrics, and there's identifiable metrics to building that as well. It looks different, right? You've got to make it, you made it a commodity. You have to have structure. You got to have something to sell. Mm-hmm. So we can work toward that. The other one that you talked about was perhaps a partnership. I don't want to stop. I want to stay in this a little bit, but I don't want to work as hard. I want to share the load. And so that model looks more like a partnership with another agent of like mind, like production. And there's some really, really clear steps to identifying that person and putting those partnerships, together in a clear fashion so they can work, right? Because that partnership's like a marriage. So we got to have really good, clear definitions in there. And it works really well. And then, of course, the other one that you talked about was a referral business. And that's another one. It's not just about quitting real estate and then just referring as people call you from time to time. I mean, yes, you can do that, but it can be so much more. But there are steps to making that, run at its highest level. There's strategic relationships you need to start putting into place to make that work. So there is a plan for each one of those, depending on what they're looking for. And that's really what we bring to the table.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I would love to dive in, leverage. Our intention is that there are agents of all level watching us talk today, and leverage may be like, oh, that's scary. And leverage may be, okay, what's next so that I can go and advance my business. So give us some examples. Like you gave us a few examples, but what would be some examples of if I'm a new agent and I just need leverage because I feel like I'm running at all paces?
Right. And we see that whether it's a new agent or an agent that's been in the business for a while. One of the things I think we forget sometimes, because we're so busy and focused on our business, is that our business is supposed to fund our life, not vice versa. And we really coach our clients to be able to have that kind of balance in their life with their business. So there's different kinds of leverage, right? There's admin support. There's sales staff, that would be by agent associates. That could be, depending on where you're at in your structure and production, a CEO level. But it could also be something as easy as having somebody take care of the laundry, having somebody take care of the house, having a person be the runner for, if you have kids in middle school, you know what I'm talking about. You're running off, you're a runner. You cease to be a mother, you become a chauffeur. Hiring that person that helps manage some of those things, from dance to this, so that you're able to stay focused at work with work, so that when you get home, you can be mom, right? So leverage looks different for every single person. But those are some pieces with it. Now, we talk about leverage a lot, and especially as and actually, I guess it applies really for any of these. So what are some of the reasons? Because that sounds amazing, right? Sounds like a no-brainer. But we resist that. A lot of people resist. I was one. We won't even go down that rabbit hole. So
You have grown, Lisa. You have leverage now.
Thank
Yes.
you.
And there
Yes.
was some resistance. Why don't people leverage? Tell us, Lisa.
Let me tell you. I think probably one of the biggest things is control. We know we can do this well. We know exactly how it should be said. We know it should be done. We know when it should be done or not done. And so some of it is control. And behind that control is also, providing the training and support so that faith is earned. Okay. And you just have to get over yourself. You can train someone if you have the right person. And that's something we work with our clients on as well, finding that right person. You can train them to do many of the things that you take on so you can focus on the more impactful activities, right? So some of it's fear, some of it is just lack of training that's going into place, which is just, plain old lack of training, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to think, what would be the other thing? Oh,
Often
there is that person who just has guilt about asking somebody to do that. Right? I'm not one of them, but there is that person who will. Like, I'm not going to ask her to do that. She's going to think I'm just being, whatever story you tell yourself. Right. And at the end of the day, we really try to help our clients see beyond that.
Yeah. But I think it does show up in all of those aspects for control, skill set, and guilt. And sometimes they start to compound on each other. And I think it's important for all of our leverage to understand that job descriptions are fluid in this world of real estate, just like our market, right? Every day is a new day when we wake up. We refuse to turn on the TV at this point. We'll just go to MLS and see what we're doing or what's going on and how we're approaching the day. But that's true for your leverage, making sure that your people that are leveraging you understand that job descriptions are fluid and we're going to work within the confines of the job description as much as we can. Right. Talk to us a little bit about the financials we should be considering as a next level business owner.
So, like we said, it's not what you make, it's what you keep, right? And the financial metrics we look at are not the ones that you submit to Uncle Sam, okay? They're the real ones, okay? That lunch we had last week, that really wasn't a business expense. It was you and I having cocktails. So.
But the teenies are good. The teenies are good.
The teenies were, it helped it flow, didn't it? But what we want to really know is we look at the financials basically so that we can measure our return on our investment, whether that return is ROI is in the staff that we have, in the lead generation sources that we have, or in the sales team and the production levels that we have. That's our barometer. That's what tells us whether our plan is working. And so it's really important. And those are one of the things that a lot of agents allow production to hide their sins, right? They don't even know where they are. And so we really use that as a red light, green light approach. And I think honestly, and it's always important, always. Not only that, you really need that that's part of your value proposition as you start moving toward an exit strategy, because you need to be able to show what the profitability of the business is. Okay. So we use the real estate version, not the tax version of the profit and loss statement to help guide us in that regard.
Well, then, moving on to the business plan, which you mentioned, when crafting that exit strategy, either working less in the business or stepping out altogether, what pieces do you take into account from being able to look at your business through the lens of this is actually a business, not a job? So I see a job as if I turn the light switch off, things stop. Mm-hmm. If I have a business, I turn the light switch off, things happen. I also would see the difference being that if I stepped out of the business today, would this business succeed or fail? Because if I am doing the everything, then quite frankly, I have a job, right?
Right.
I'm at McDonald's flipping burgers. If I don't flip burgers, the drive-through line backs up. So I have a job. And so what are those key market or key business plan features that you make sure you include in everyone's business plan?
So a lot of that is going to, again, everything varies for the individual depending on where they're at. But one of the things that we will look at in their business is, tell me, what is it that you're doing? What is it that it takes to make your operation run, and who's doing it? And if that person disappeared, who comes in behind? Mm-hmm. So again, it changes and it evolves. That part of a business plan, that exit strategy is not just when you turn off the lights, it's different it's different levels that you get to build to that, right? And so it's not like if you were to come to us today and you are I don't know, let's pick a number. You are a $15 million producer, you're knocking it out of the park on your own with full-time admin, and you want to take your business to the next level. Okay, so we define what that's going to be for you, and then we start asking some of those questions. We start opening up. We help you see beyond what you do in yourself, what you see in your day-to-day activities. And part of that is taking a look at everything that it takes to make the business run, seeing who's done it, and then identifying who could do it. And then, are we at the level that we could put that person into place, or what is that metric for us to put that person into place to start opening that up?
Yeah. And I think, what you're getting to also are those customized benchmarks for the team lead, right? At what point would you feel comfortable walking away? So how much business do you need to have on the books consistently over a 6, 12, 18 month period, such that you feel comfortable walking away, just like you would buyer's agent, hybrid agent, if they're doing listings and purchases, if it's an admin, like we set metrics for them. But what I like too is having that clear focus on, for me to say I'm going to pull back, the company needs to be generating X number of dollars in revenue,
right,
over a certain period of time, such that if I stepped away, my revenue wouldn't be impacted because they've basically caught that up, and then everything else is future growth. So really looking at the metrics of not only the new hire, but the team lead to say, okay, this is the point in which I feel like I can pull back. And sometimes it is one step back to go 2 steps forward, right? So for you, Lisa, I know you started as an independent agent. We hired transaction coordinator, marketing, administrative, executive assistant. And then it was like, okay, for Lisa to get some leverage, she needs to hire a buyer's agent, and then hire that buyer's agent. Did that take some of the commission dollars out of your pocket? Yes. However, now that buyer's agent breaks you through that next ceiling, because you can go focus on the things you want to focus on, and that buyer's agent can then multiply the business. And I think sometimes people look at it as that, how much is that agent bringing into the business, or they're not bringing in business, they're only working my business, I could have done that anyway. I mean, have you ever heard that?
Well, and yes, I have. And you know what the answer to that is? Would you have worked those leads if that person was not there?
Exactly.
Like, oh.
Exactly. Yeah. And so
there's a yin and yang. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's opening your mind. And yes, you could have made 100% of those commission dollars, but how much is your time worth? And would you have done it anyway? Like you said, like, would the follow-up be what you expect of your agent as follow-up if you're working the leads?
Exactly.
Yeah, good stuff. Well, I think there's a lot of ways that people can look at exit strategy, and what exit strategy means to them. And just like we always say, everyone defines a team differently. Everyone defines success differently. I'm a firm believer everyone defines the exit strategy differently. And it's just for us, it's really being open to working someone through that process, and not just looking at how many transactions are we going to do this year, and then what are we going to do next year and the following year, and then what are we going to do with all of it? Because like you said too, it's profitability. We can make $1 bazillion, and if we spend $1 bazillion in one, we didn't make any money. So
right.
Keeping that in line. So Lisa, if you have one final parting thought, what would you share with us?
I think the most important thing to consider is that sometimes it takes an outside perspective to really guide us through our blind spots or our perceived limits to help us get past those glass ceilings. And that along with all the pieces that we use to help us, that's what we do.
Yeah, I love it. The ceilings too, they show up and we don't even realize that they're there half the time.
Nope. No.
Yeah. So
Until you got a big old bruise on your head.
that's right. And not right. Well, Lisa, thanks so much for joining us today. I know your time is valuable and your clients love working with you. So Lisa also has some open slots. If you're interested in coaching with Lisa, I'll give you the plug there. She's an amazing woman and comes with a wealth of information. So thanks again, Lisa, and take care, everyone.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Debbie. Bye.